Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Let me just make sure everything's good here. Good, my mic's working. That's always a good start, ain't it? Let's see what we have here in the chat today. We have Lake, we have Kevin, as well as Caleb, Catman, Critty, and Tracy, Indiana, Blah. Also Mesoscale and Mesoscale. Yeah, Weatherwise Pro. Definitely very, very good. One of the most powerful tools. Highly recommend it. Definitely on the pricier side of softwares, though. So, yeah, that I'm probably only got. It's very pricey. Very, very, very pricey. We also have Ohio in here. We also have Critty, Unknown, and Electric, and everyone else in the chat who I may have forgotten to welcome. Glad to have you in here for another live stream, and everyone else who is watching and not chatting, glad to have you in here as well. Let's switch over to our main scene. We should be good to go. Make sure everything's working at least semi-correctly. Overlay's not too bugged. Wouldn't be surprised if it sparks up to like 99 tornado warnings. That thing's been buggy recently. Bought GR2 analysis today. Now that's one, that is definitely... That's the best analysis tool out there, for sure. But, yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive right on into this. I do have to be honest, though. Weatherfront, man, we used that almost the entire live stream 2 days ago. And that was just really crazy. It was honestly crazy. Weatherfront has been very, very useful, very fast, fast to update. It was getting scans. Not as fast as Weatherwise. Weatherwise still got those scans about 10-20 seconds sooner. But it was faster than GR2, so Weatherfront, really, really good tool as well. And obviously, yeah, that's only $10 a month, which is not that bad compared to some of these other softwares. But yeah, like I said, hopefully everyone's having a great day so far, having a great Saturday out there. It's June 13th, 2026. We've got big severe weather on par for Missouri, as well as Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Iowa, maybe even into a bit of Nebraska. We've got a big-time severe weather outbreak and tornado outbreak possible going into the middle of next week with multiple days of severe weather. Really not looking at a big break for severe storms other than Monday. Monday looks to be the only day where we probably won't have much more than a severe storm or two, which is going to probably be one of the more inactive days of June, I'd have to imagine. So let's go ahead and dive on into our outlook for today. We do have a enhanced risk for severe weather by the Storm Prediction Center out here centered on top of Kansas City with a level 3 out of 5 for severe weather in effect. That includes populated cities like Wichita, Kansas, Springfield, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Salina, Kansas, Trenton, Missouri, Maryville, Missouri. You guys all inside of that enhanced risk. It's also right on the right on kind of halfway splitting down the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma as well. And Joplin obviously included that in Missouri as well. So a lot of areas here in western Missouri, eastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, and a sliver of northwest Arkansas included in that pretty high threat for severe storms today. Damaging winds will be the highest concern. We're at a borderline moderate risk for damaging winds today. We've got a 45 significant Sig 1 risk for damaging winds in effect out here in and south of Kansas City, Missouri. That stretches from roughly the Kansas City vicinity west to Topeka, Kansas, back down towards Eureka, Kansas, and then also into Bartlesville, Oklahoma, Joplin, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri. So big time damaging winds on tap for today. Not necessarily looking at extremely significant damaging winds, but we are looking at widespread 60 to 70 miles per hour, and a few wind gusts could approach 80 miles per hour, and I wouldn't entirely rule out a gust up to 90, but we're really not looking at that wind gust threat above 80 miles per hour today. Really, it should be the primary ordeal is just the widespread portion of it. It's going to be a very large line that rolls through, not necessarily an extremely significant event. So we're going to be monitoring that very, very closely. We also have I believe this is a newly upgraded hail risk. I'm not for sure, but it's either newly upgraded or I just was blind and didn't see it. But either way, it's a 30% Sig 1 risk for large hail. And we could see some hailstones upwards of about 3 inches in diameter out there in northwestern Missouri and central Kansas. We do have a tornado risk today, albeit not that impressive. I wouldn't rule out a strong tornado or two across this 5% Sig 1 area, but we're really not looking at a big tornado threat today. We're looking at very elevated convection. Really, the highest tornado threat today will be focused with a QLCS spin-up ordeal with that QLCS as it moves into southeastern Kansas and southwestern Missouri. But there is going to be a window for some discrete convection up here. However, I think people are overdoing the tornado threat. We're not looking at a very good environment out here for tornadoes. It should be, we'll take a look at it in just a second, it should be a primarily elevated environment where you're looking at a lot of hail, some tornado potential, and a good amount of wind. I think some people are overthrowing the tornado risk up here. But I would not be surprised if we do get a brief, strong tornado, either with one of those discrete supercells, if they can latch onto a boundary, or firing a little bit more of a unstable environment or a locally more favorable corridor for tornadoes. And I wouldn't rule out a strong tornado or two embedded inside of the QLCS very late tonight on approach to areas like Nevada in western Missouri or Eureka in eastern, southeastern Kansas. We're going to just start with today. Let's hop to our model guidance. We're not going to go to all the other days just yet. We're going to take this day by day here. So this is going to be the first day, being today. We're getting a new run on our HRRR right now, and we're really not expecting much over the next 3 to 4 hours. There's really not a whole lot of big-time severe weather that we're looking at over the next 3 to 4 hours. But once we get to about that 4:30, 5 p.m. Eastern time frame, that's when we're going to start looking at the potential for some supercellular development from Des Moines, Iowa, all the way back to just east of Garden City, Kansas. And you can see here, this starts to pop off at 6 p.m. Eastern time out here in southeastern Nebraska. And by the time we get to 7 p.m. Eastern, now we've got multiple supercells beginning to fire across Kansas and Missouri. And then 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have to go to an older model run here. 8 p.m. Eastern, you could see things start turning a bit messy. Maybe still could have a discrete supercell or two that poses a big hail threat. But really, things grow very sloppy very fast, and that is a huge downtrend from yesterday's runs. Yesterday's runs made it look like today would be derecho potential, and we've really trended to a more of a slop fest, and you kind of have to think here. I wonder if that's to do partially with the morning convection ongoing across Iowa and northern Missouri. I wonder if that is having some implications on maybe leaving some cool pool behind it or outflow boundary. And that outflow boundary could be a focal point later in the day for supercellular development. If there is one out there, we'll have to take a little look at it in just a bit. And then we go towards 9 o'clock. Like I said, we could still have a discrete supercell or two ongoing here, but it's really looking like a meh type of environment and type of storm mode today. If we take a look at our soundings here in front of Kansas City at 9 p.m., let's kind of see what we got here. This is a marginal tornado sounding. Not a whole lot of lower level wind shear. That's probably going to be your number one limiting factor. However, as the sun sets, that lower level wind shear will increase, and that's where our tornado threat will be a little bit higher. So I expect things to be hail dominant at first, transition a bit more into a sloppier wind and hail threat, and then maybe a little increase in our tornado risk as we start to see that MCS continue to form, and then that tornado threat will probably be maximized as your MCS is well underway and chugging along in southwestern Missouri later tonight. You can see that's really not going to happen until 10, 11 o'clock Eastern time, somewhere from around Kansas City down to north central Oklahoma. That's going to be where your MCS is going to be chugging along later on tonight. Right in that vicinity is probably the main area for tornadoes as well as damaging winds. But today, not a particularly volatile environment or a good setup for tornadoes by any means. I can tell you if this does come to fruition, the main area for tornadoes would be right out in here. Because whenever we see kind of like, I don't know what causes it, but it's almost like a kind of a miniature warm front almost, where you have an MCS here and kind of like a lifting mechanism out in front of that. And right where that meets is a corridor for enhanced tornado potential. So if that does come to fruition, that would be one of our more conditional, strong tornado threats today. But that's generally what we are looking at. Once again, storms fire, mainly hail dominant. Around 5 o'clock Eastern time, and they stay hail dominant. Wind threat continues to increase until about 7 or 8 o'clock, and then things turn a little bit more sloppy where we'll have more of an isolated significant severe weather threat, and then eventually things congeal up into a line where our peak event begins between 11 p.m. and probably 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern time will be our peak event. Very, very late tonight. So that is generally what we're looking at for today's severe weather event. And I do want to go back to that SPC outlook for those who are just tuning in. Here's your enhanced risk for severe weather today. Again, big time hail up in this area and then transitioning more into a wind and torr threat once we go around and south of Kansas City, Missouri. Let's go and take a look at mesoanalysis real quick, since we are getting a new one in right now. Take a look at the environment, and that is some hot garbage. That is some hot garbage right there. This is the turn around, go back home ordeal if you're storm chasing. That is a, wow, shockingly, we are in a capped environment at 1:15 Eastern time in the afternoon. That is actually pretty horrible there. Definitely not the look that you would think would be out here for a significant severe weather day. So highly doubt a notable significant day for severe weather is on tap for today. Just some isolated significant gust and isolated significant hail and maybe a brief sig tour or two. Not looking at a particularly widespread significant severe weather outbreak today. Not a whole lot of flow in your 500 millibar. We could zoom out a little bit further here. Not a whole lot of flow happening. We do have a little bit of flow in about 4 to 6 hours from this kind of embedded shortwave trough right up in here along a bowling ball trough that's further up into Canada. And that's going to be the little area of flow that allows for some storms to fire in northwestern Missouri and northeastern Kansas. But it's um, really not a whole lot impressive, to be honest with you. Even in 2 hours, 4 hours here, you can see a little focal point right there in southern Kansas that might, or southern Nebraska rather, that might develop. That's going to be where our main hail threat is going to be. Might have a little bit locally higher of a tor threat, but I'm very skeptical of that, and there's one reason on it: surface observations. This is exactly what I was thinking. 79 and 59, 83, 68, 78 and 62, 83 and 72. You're not too bad west of Kansas City, Missouri, but some of these are very elevated profiles, and moisture is barely going to go up throughout the day, and temps are going to soar up. So you're looking at a pretty elevated environment, and I really think things will be more hail dominant here. We're going to go, this is about 6 o'clock, and you could see we are at about 92 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit here with dew points in the low 60s. Like I said, I'm leaning towards hail dominant ordeal across many of these areas. Not so confident in that tor threat. Catman, this is not a good environment at all, buddy. I know the environment's going to take some time, but this is a good look for I want to break my windshield. That's what it is. This is not a type of day where we're looking at an intense tor threat or something like that. Let's take a look at a different model one like the RRFSA here. Again, still looking at those 94 temps and still looking at those dew points into mid 60s, maybe the upper 60s. But again, you're still looking at maybe a leaning towards a more elevated environment. That's not as bad, but you're still leaning towards more of an elevated environment, more of a messier mode. So again, I think hail damaging winds at first, then transitioning into more of a damaging wind and tornado threat later tonight. Let's go into tomorrow now. Tomorrow we've got a slight risk for severe weather across the eastern portions here of the U.S. A level 2 out of 5 in effect there. Across New York, back into Ohio, into much of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and also into North Carolina, included in that slight risk level 2 out of 5. There is some risk for a brief tornado or two across this area, and I wouldn't fully rule out a strong tornado if we could get some boundary action going across far eastern Virginia into Maryland. But that strong tornado threat is going to be extremely low. I just wouldn't completely throw it out of the spectrum there. But the wind threat will be the primary concern. Widespread 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts will be a problem, and then also some isolated hail up to 1 inch in diameter. Not a particularly impressive threat for severe weather tomorrow across the eastern U.S. Not anything that really raises an eyebrow for a notable tor threat, but you are going to be in a decently unstable environment, so these thunderstorms that roll through late in the evening, we're looking at about storms firing at about 3 p.m. and then becoming a big problem once we go to between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern. Just some widespread 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts tomorrow, and then if anything can be discrete like that, maybe some hail up to 1 inch in diameter. There will be some locally greater wind shear available across this area. You can see here we might have some pockets of up to 200 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. That's why I said I wouldn't completely throw out a brief strong tornado tomorrow. But really just looking at widespread 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, a brief tornado or two, can't fully rule out one strong, and then 1 inch hail with any discrete storms. But not a particularly concerning event for severe weather tomorrow. We do also have a marginal back out in this vicinity here for tomorrow as well, just for some isolated damaging winds. If we take a look at the SPC outlook for tomorrow, it's going to be right there. There you go. They have that for, yeah, just a 5% wind and 5% hail. Nothing too impressive there. So tomorrow will be a pretty good day for damaging winds across the East Coast, but outside of that, I don't see anything too concerning. Again, wouldn't rule out a tornado or two over there.
A new flash flood warning has been issued.
Uh-oh. Here we go again. Get ready for a billion warnings of flash flood warnings that aren't actually being issued. It's just going to repeat the same one. Let's see if another one comes in right after that. Then finally, after that, after Sunday, which is tomorrow, we go into Monday. And Monday will probably be the most inactive day for severe weather that we have seen in the last week, maybe two, here in the U.S. I wouldn't rule out a marginal risk somewhere across the southern U.S. That's obviously going to be a possibility. But really just nothing more than some brief 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, heavy rain, and very small hail will be possible on Monday. That's going to be a pretty big rest day for the weather community. And then after that, we can go to day 4, which is Tuesday. Tuesday is not a particularly impressive day for severe weather. Depending on how our trough looks, I wouldn't rule out some severe weather on Tuesday. Two areas I would be watching would be the far deep south, southern U.S. across this area. And the main area I'd be watching is back up here towards Chicago. Those are the two areas I would be monitoring for some severe threat on Tuesday. Then we go into Wednesday, and that's where things get interesting. This is going to probably be a similar caliber event to what we just dealt with on the 11th, 2 days ago. I don't know if the wind threat will necessarily be as high, but the torr potential and generally the wind potential ceiling seems to be similar to what we had on June 11th, just 2 days ago, across this, very close to this exact same area, across Illinois, Indiana, and into eastern Missouri and eastern Iowa. The biggest uncertainty is the placement of the highest risk. Some models are pointing towards this area being the highest risk for severe weather. Some models are pointing towards more of out here for the highest risk for severe weather. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see which way we kind of trend. If we go more to the northeast for our highest severe threat, or if we end up back towards here with our highest severe threat for overall all hazards. We'll dive more in depth on that in just a minute. We'll go more in depth on day 5 and day 6 on a College of Dew page. So I'll just go to your day 6 outlook here on Thursday real fast. We've got another slight risk for severe weather, and this could easily be extended to the northeast and south. It depends on our trough. Once again, if our trough is faster, then that means you guys here in Ohio aren't going to get severe weather on Thursday, and your main day will be Wednesday. If your trough is slower, that severe threat on Thursday could stretch even into Indiana. If your trough is generally what we're expecting, then that severe threat is going to begin somewhere in Ohio and Kentucky, and then progress up to the northeast into New York, Delaware, and New Jersey. So it all comes down to the timing of your trough on where the greatest severe risk is going to be on both day 5 and day 6, being Wednesday and Thursday. Give me just a brief second. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and go over to College of Dew page now. We're going to start with our 500 millibar wind speeds like we like to do. So let's go ahead and pull this out just a tad. This is for today. You could see some broad flow here across our risk area in Kansas and Missouri. Nothing particularly intense, which is why I don't think today will be a big tornado day per se, but it could be a pretty big wind threat, especially across southeastern Kansas, southwestern Missouri. As you can see there, that shortwave strengthens a little bit more after dark. Then we go into tomorrow. Nothing particularly too insane, but you do get a big bowling ball trough with a whole lot of defluence aloft out here, and that should allow for some very widespread thunderstorms. Not particularly significant though. Cape, big problem here on the GFS. If that actually does come to fruition, you know, the NAM has a lot more instability available. The GFS does not. So the more Cape we have tomorrow, the more widespread that wind threat will be. But but if the GFS does come to fruition there, tomorrow would definitely be more of an underperforming event if this particular run is correct. Monday, that should be our off day. There's really nothing to watch. Like I said, the southern US, maybe a little something there. And these models aren't picking up on anything in and around the Chicago area. But StormNet did, and I trust StormNet quite a lot, so I would be still watching right up in that corridor on Monday just in case something, or actually that would be Tuesday, my bad. Monday we wouldn't have to watch up there. Monday we would just have to watch the Deep South. Tuesday would actually be, yeah, there you go. Tuesday would actually be the day that we have to watch up there into Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan for a brief tornado threat, and then also back down here in the southern U.S. as well. And you could see GFS does pick up a little bit more on that brief tornado risk, but the big thing is there's not going to be a lot of convection to fire. If we look at your 500 millibar flow here, that's actually not particularly bad. This should allow for a pretty good severe threat on Tuesday. Does the Euro have that? Yeah, the Euro has that too. I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that we don't have a day 4 risk for severe weather. Maybe there might not be enough CAPE available or something. But I'm a little bit surprised we don't have a slight risk on day 4 here for Kansas. Because that's an area where both the Euro, the GFS, and even the Canadian agree on there being a good amount of CAPE. So that would be an area to watch for damaging wind potential. Maybe some small hail, maybe a brief tornado threat. And then you'd also have to watch the Deep South. And then you'd also have to watch back up here. So there's going to be a few low-end severe threats on Tuesday. Might barely get to a slight risk for severe weather. But pretty much just a few low-end severe weather events. And then look at that. That's a possible tropical depression making landfall there in Mexico from our area of interest in southern Texas. That's currently out in the western Gulf, as you could see. If we go ahead and change that up real quick, we've got a 1020 low pressure out here for the potential of some brief tropical development. I really don't think anything is going to develop out of that other than some heavy rain as it hits the coastline of Texas on Tuesday, Monday night into Tuesday. Then we go into Wednesday, and that's the big day for severe weather, but there's a lot of uncertainty on your trough. You can see here we do have your bowling ball trough, but unlike on the 10th, it's not particularly negatively tilted here. We don't have nearly as good of a slingshot effect, which is why I don't think the damaging wind threat will be as high of a ceiling as we had on the 11th. But it might, the tornado threat might be right there with the same general idea for the potential of strong to intense tornadoes here on the 17th, just like we had on the 11th, in a very similar vicinity. The GFS has that threat maybe a little bit further to the west than some of our other models. The GFS is kind of painting that main severe threat right in here. So not as well into Michigan and Ohio and northern Indiana for Wednesday as some of our other ones show. But that would be a pretty big day for significant severe weather, especially if you live in Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, right in that vicinity, right in there. The biggest question is how far south does our forcing get? Because you could see on this run, we don't really see a lot of storms down here, right? And that's because you don't have a lot of forcing, and you actually have a capping that kind of is just there throughout the whole day. It never fully lifts. It lifts partially midday back up here where those storms do fire, but back down here in like Oklahoma, southern Kansas, even into Arkansas and southern Missouri, that cap doesn't fully lift. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty for Wednesday, but I think Wednesday's ceiling is just as high as what we had 2 days ago on June 11th. And then Thursday looks pretty good for severe weather as well. Definitely looks like a pretty good threat for some damaging winds and a few brief tornadoes, maybe even one strong across the Tennessee Valley, maybe into the deep south, and then back up into the northeastern U.S. And again, this is a vastly different scenario than what the SPC has. The SPC has their like 15% right up in here, not even close to down into Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama. So Thursday, more uncertainty on where the position of our severe threat will be. So generally, both of these days look pretty good for severe weather. Thursday, obviously, a little bit less of a Tor threat than Wednesday, but there's just a lot of uncertainty on the placement of where our severe threat is going to be on both Wednesday and Thursday. Just a lot of uncertainty on the timing of your trough, and that's going to allow for a particularly complex forecast for this day. And I do want to go to the European model run. This is something I haven't looked at that I want to check out with you guys. And I want to see what we can show here. So we have instability on this. This is for Wednesday. And you could see a very good hot spot right in that vicinity for your greatest severe weather threat on the European model run. And I want to get a sounding out here near St. Louis and see what this has. Oh, okay. I like the 1 joule of 3 cape. I like the 1 joule of 3 cape there. A lot of wind shear, but a little bit lacklustering on the instability. But that is a pretty good environment there. That is a pretty good environment right across the St. Louis area. Pulling one a little bit further west, and there you go. There's a PDS tornado sounding right there. That's going to be 450 0 to 1 kilometer SRH and 660 0 to 3 kilometer SRH over 3,700 Cape, 80 degree temperatures, and 75 degree dew points right there. So that's a particularly borderline volatile, if not volatile, environment. Mesomat, welcome to the stream. Glad to see you back in here. Thank you for the $10 donation. Glad to see you back in here. And thanks for tuning in. Glad to see you in here once again. And thank you for the $10 donation. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. I appreciate that greatly. Check mesoanalysis. The environment is really recovering. Thankfully, a lot of the severe weather for June has kind of avoided Western Kentucky. We did have that one line that pushed through with the 1 tornado warning, like 5 days ago. That pushed through the Mayfield, Kentucky area, but nothing particularly crazy has happened over there. So this is your mesoanalysis. And you guys are saying the environment's recovering. This thing looks like some slop. This thing looks like some slop right now. I ain't gonna lie. I am not gonna lie one bit. It looks like some slop. But if we go to the HRRR's newest observations here, you can actually see the HRRR, I believe, is overdoing the instability. The HRRR is overdoing the instability. Go back 2 hours. Yeah, Catman, fun fact. When the sun comes out, daytime heating can help increase instability. And as your morning convection leaves the main risk, that can also help increase instability behind it. So that's like, yeah, there's gonna be more CAPE. That's like saying, is there gonna be more CAPE at midnight or more CAPE at 3 p.m.? Of course there's gonna be more CAPE when the sun is absolutely beating down on the main risk area. And I don't even see it rapidly recovering. Like if we compare this, you were at 2,500 CAPE west of Kansas City. Now you're at 3,000. 500 CAPE in 2 hours. Yesterday we were going at 2,000, 3,000 CAPE in 2 hours. Or not yesterday, on the 11th, June 11th. Across Oklahoma, you mean the area that's not going to be getting severe weather until midnight or 1 a.m.? I don't want to be avoided. Well, you are being avoided out there in Western Kentucky. I mean, the instability in an area where the instability in Oklahoma City truly doesn't really matter that much, to be honest with you. If we take a look, that instability, by the time it's used, it's going to be gone. If we just loop this out, look, by the time that instability is used, it's back down to 1,000. So it's not like we're going to get initiation with that 4,000 to 5,000 cape down there. And you can see your moisture advection right there. Dew points recovered a lot. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Catman. It doesn't matter. Down here, it does not matter. It truly does not. We're really, the main area you're looking at for recovery is right up in here. That's where you're looking at for recovery. And right now, that looks like some absolute garbage up in there. You've got a capped environment with only 1,000 to 2,500 cape in much of that vicinity. And you've got dew points in the low 60s, and temps are almost pushing the low 90s in some spots now. So it truly doesn't really matter, because that environment that you're talking about down here won't be used up until very, very late. That area is going to evict to the north, though. Really? Really? Hold on, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. With what trough? What's going to be evicting that north? It's not like you got some 990 millibar low pressure. What's going to be pushing it north? If we look on our model runs, you can see some of it goes north as you have this weak low pressure over western Kansas. But look, your 75 dew points in Tulsa, it's not like that's going to be going all the way up to like central Kansas here. They stay right in this vicinity. Right in this vicinity. If we look, that's where your 70-degree dew points are, right in there, right? And look how far north they move. In 8 hours, they get 2 counties to the north. And again, it doesn't matter, because if we go back to your reflectivity, look at this. For the entire 8 hours that this atmosphere is, quote, recovering, you're not going to get any good initiation. Between now at noon, right around just after noon Central Time, and all the way until 8 p.m. Central Time, there's going to be like nothing that fires in that area. So by the time your environment is all prime, you get 5,000 cape out here, you get your 80-degree dew points. Guess what's going to happen? Your dew points are still going to be there in the mid 70s by the time that line arrives. You can see you're still in the mid 70s, but your cape has fallen off rapidly. If we go back to your surface instability, you go from 5,000 cape to when that line arrives there, you're back down to 2,000. I will say the cape does advect pretty good northward. I will say that. The moisture doesn't necessarily advect that far northward, but I will say the cape does. And that's what's gonna fuel your line. That's what's gonna fuel your line. That's why we have our. If we go back here, that's why we have our 45 sig 1 wind risk out, because all that cape that is in Oklahoma, it is going to advect at least to southeastern Kansas. I don't think it's going to be going up into like Nebraska and northern Kansas to help that severe threat. But I do think that is going to help greatly with your wind threat. And that's why if we look at the HRRR here, that's why the HRRR shows such an intense line in that area. Because you actually get some cape. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking your cape in Oklahoma, that great amount of instability in here, will go at least a little bit to the north into southeastern Kansas, and we'll stay at a dominant hail threat, some wind, maybe a little torr threat up here. But once those storms eventually make their way into southeastern Kansas, into that primary 45 sig 1 risk area, that's where they're finally going to blow up with wind. But I really don't see that big of a tornado risk today outside of that MCS. You can see here that is a particularly favorable environment for tornadoes. Definitely a few brief tornadoes, and maybe even one or two strong will be possible there. This is sounding north of Tulsa. This environment won't be used too much, but you can see this is a very primed sounding here across Oklahoma. Over 5,000 Cape as well. So that's why that's why we have that 45 sig 1 wind. So again, I think we're gonna have an elevated thunderstorm problem here. Dew points might be a little bit too low, temps might be a little bit too high, and that's why hail will be the primary threat up here, transitioning to damaging winds as you get into that more primed environment further to the south, and that Tor threat is going to be much higher with that MCS to the south compared to with those discrete storms up here. New Day 2 Outlook came out. Let's see. Wow. Wow, they expanded that exponentially. Wow, that slight risk that slight risk goes all the way down into Georgia now. That slight risk is huge. They expanded that slight exponentially for tomorrow. But yeah, like I said, today doesn't impress me for tornado potential. I would definitely watch, though, with that MCS. Apologies if I was getting on you a little bit too much there, Catman. I just don't think the moisture is going to be advecting crazily far into, like, central Kansas to where it could save that discrete supercell threat into central Kansas. But you were probably talking more about your area for the MCS, less about the Tor threat into Kansas. Yeah, see, you don't think that either. See? So we were on the same page. I just simply had a bit more of a misunderstanding. New marginal tornado risk in Vermont tomorrow. Imagine that performed better than, like, Wednesday. Yeah, we do have oh, there's your new outlook. Look how fast Weatherfront got that. So there's your new outlook. That 30% wind risk looks a little bit larger. That Tor risk looks almost the same, and that hail risk looks almost the same. But the wind threat definitely a bit larger in almost every direction. And then, like Grumpy Grandpa just said there, 2% added up into New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So make sure you guys are weather aware if you live in that area tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be live. It's a huge NASCAR race tomorrow. If it gets... The NASCAR race is in Pocono. Pocono Raceway, which is just to the south of Scranton. That's somewhere out in here is Pocono Raceway. I forgot exactly where it is, but it's somewhere. See, there's Pocono Pines, so it's very, very close to that vicinity where Pocono Raceway is. And there's a chance for a rain delay down there. So if it gets rain delayed, I will cover tomorrow. If it doesn't get rain delayed, then I'm going to watch the race, and then maybe I'll go live after the race ends. Yeah, you could see, but I think they'll get the full race in. NASCAR pushed it back to start time at, I think, 2 p.m. I think pre-race starts at 1, and start time is now at, like, 2 or something around there. 1, somewhere between 1 and 2, they pushed it back to, instead of, like, 3:30. So they're starting like an hour and a half, 2 hours early. And the main chance for rain doesn't come in until about 4:35. So I think we'll barely get the race in. Think Illinois will be bad today? Nope. I do not. I think you guys need to watch this risk for Wednesday. Unfortunately, I think Wednesday will have the same opportunity for significant severe weather that June 11th had 2 days ago. The big question is where? Is that highest severe threat focused over Illinois, central Illinois, or is it back towards Missouri? Because, again, some models like the Euro and the GFS are hinting towards that highest severe threat out here. But other models like StormNet, which I like a lot, thinks that the highest severe threat will be more of over here. So either way, if you're in Illinois, you want to be watching Wednesday, which is the 17th. Let me see here. Yeah, StormNet for tomorrow. Actually, StormNet has increased probabilities for the chance of a tornado in Maryland tomorrow. With this cluster that rolls through around, of course, 6, 7 p.m. Literally, I kid you not. Literally 6, 7 p.m. Best chance for a tornado tomorrow would be right in there. So, yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. Like I said, there's a small chance I chase, small chance I stream, small chance I don't stream. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, bro. I know I'm going to be doing something. Whether it be watching the NASCAR race, chasing in Eastern Virginia, chasing in my neck of the woods, or live streaming the event. We'll see. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this stream so far, make sure you hit that like button. And share the stream with your family, friends, social media. Help us get up to 80 likes. We're only 3 likes away from that. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all, because I will have multiple more live streams here in the future. As for a video, it's been already over a week. Yesterday was the one week mark since a video. You guys seem to prefer live streams over videos, so I think I'm gonna just continue with live streams because that's what you guys like the most. I can do on one. It will take me about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, to get a video out, and I can do an hour live stream in that time easily. So streams are just a little bit easier. A little bit easier to do, a little bit quicker to spark up, and a little bit more entertaining. Use the Force, thank you for becoming an EF3 member again. I appreciate that. Changed my card number, so I had to fix it. No, you lost your streak. I think you were 3 months worth of a member, I believe, and now I guess you're back to 0. This is going to be month 0, technically month 1. We'll count it. This is actually the 4th month. Thank you for renewing that membership, though, of an EF3 member. Appreciate that greatly. Do you expect 30 probs for Wednesday? Easily, Critty. Easily. I don't know about a day 4 enhanced, because there's uncertainty on positioning, but I do think so. I think we'll probably get an enhanced risk day 4, like right in that area. But that is a little bit more difficult. See the pictures I sent you? No, I didn't. I feel like we had this conversation the other day, and I couldn't find them. Oh, no, there they are. Hold on, I gotta see this. Dang. Yo. That's wild. The shelf cloud wasn't overly impressive. It is good, but it's not overly impressive. But that video, man, that makes it look a whole lot more intense than the shelf cloud did. Yeah, there is a random 2 severes in Michigan. Sure is. The mantis are crazy as well. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Um, either it could be either under the shelf cloud, like just before the storm comes. Like, so normally what it is you get a big gust of wind with the shelf cloud, and then in between the shelf cloud and the rain shaft, that's where you can have some mantis clouds. In between where the shelf cloud gives you a little bit of wind and then the actual main core is, there's a little dry slot right in the middle that can have mantis clouds. And that's more commonly called the whale's mouth. More commonly called the whale's mouth. And then the mantis clouds can also happen behind that rain shaft. As that rain shaft occurs, you get the dry slot in the middle and then the shelf cloud. You can get mantis clouds also behind the entire storm itself. Those are the 2 best ways to see it. Either in the whale's mouth under the shelf cloud as it's passing overhead before the rain shaft hits you, or after the shelf, after the whale's mouth, and after the rain shaft, you can get mantis clouds behind the whole system. And I know there's definitely just doxed everybody. I just doxed everybody. I know there's definitely been mantis clouds, with just like sunny skies. Just like sunny skies behind that. Like, I know Oklahoma had some wild mantis clouds, and it was just like a random day. There wasn't even any severe weather. And screenshotted it. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to take your time to go try to find Caleb's house. I'm sure you will. I pulled that away so fast. I want to go try to see if I can even see it. It was like literally half a second. I was fast reaction time right there. But yeah, I don't really have any more time today, to be honest with you, y'all. I might cover later today, but thankfully it is downtrended quite a bit. So if you're just tuning in, you want to know what's happening, please rewatch the live stream. I did it in a very orderly fashion for the first 40 minutes. We covered day 1, day 2, day 3, and then we went a little bit in depth on day 4, and then we went very in depth after that on day 4 and day 5, and then we kind of went all over the place for the last 15-20 minutes of the stream. But I've got a pretty busy day ahead. And considering this event is overnight, I'm likely not going to live stream coverage. And again, tomorrow's 50-50. I probably, one of these days I'll be live. Either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, I'll have a live stream. So just make sure you have that notification bell set to all so you know which one it is. One of those days I'll be live. I'm not sure which one, but one of them. Not us, Catman, just Caleb, really. Primarily Caleb. It was just for a brief second. Caleb, if you want me to, I can gladly try to edit that part out or take down the live stream. It's up to you. If you don't want that half second photo out there. I'll gladly take it down if you want me to. They mentioned going 45% wind and most likely will in future out cap. Are you for real? Wind probabilities of a 45% enhanced risk across the central and northern mid-Atlantic region, but opted to defer any upgrade to later outlooks after collaboration with local offices. Man, dang it! My local NWS just prevented us from getting an enhanced risk. Come on. I mean, I agree with it, though. I definitely agree with it. I think they should hold off till tomorrow and see how much cape there is. Because with the GFS saying only 1,000 cape, and then you have other models like the NAM saying 3,000 cape, whichever one looks more likely. If there's 3,000 cape, they're probably going to pull it. If there's 1,000 cape, they're probably going to withhold it. See, now that that's a 45% wind risk, that's kind of, I might have to chase, you know? That's about, depending on where it is, it's about a 2-hour drive from Martinsville to just east of South Boston is about a 2-hour drive. And then from there, for like Franklin, Williamsburg, that's about 4 hours. So you're looking at, this is about an hour, a little under an hour. This is about 30 minutes, 1 hour, hour and 30 minutes, 1 hour, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then 3 hours, and then 4 hours out over here. Something kind of like that for me. But the good news is, look at this. See, I have this beautiful interstate, or beautiful highway right here that just takes me right up to an interstate. I have almost a straight line shot to tomorrow's severe risk. So if I need to, I will. And I'm about to miss my ending time, so I got to get out of here. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you, mods, for modding chat. And thank you, also, Matt, for the $10 donation, and use the force for becoming an EF3 member. And again, on your way out, if you can, hit that like button, share the channel with family, friends, social media, and subscribe with that notification bell set to all so you know when I go live in the next 3 days. I will have a live stream either tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday. We'll have at least one live stream on one of those 3 days. And then we will for sure be live on Wednesday. Wednesday is a 100% chance of a live stream. And I should be live, once again, a different time between tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. So 2 live streams. 2 live streams between now and Wednesday. Wednesday being one, and then hopefully tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday also being another one. That's going to be it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you much for on chat. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Stay weather aware. And I'll catch you in the next live stream that I do. Goodbye. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next live stream that I do. Thank you, Mods for Mod in chat. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Goodbye.